What's up, everybody? Andrew Mahone here with Tricky Jim at Full Grip Games. Today, I'm going to be doing a set review for the second half of our upcoming Darkness Ablaze set, featuring all of the cards from Japan's Eruption Walker set. There are a ton of powerful new Pokemon VMAX in this set, as well as a new mechanic for Fire-type Pokemon, a new item lock card, and a new Night March deck. Let's take a look. Now, if we take a look over at Pokebeach.com, we can see they have all of the beautiful card scans as well as translations up from Japan's Eruption Walker set. First Pokemon we're going to take a look at, Butterfree V and Butterfree VMAX. And first thing we'll notice, Butterfree VMAX, it's got 300 HP, a little bit on the low end as far as VMAX Pokemon are concerned, and it's got one attack, free retreat though, which is super nice. Butterfree V with 190 HP and a retreat of 1. Butterfree V's attacks, Dizzying Poison for 1 grass energy. Your opponent's active Pokemon is now poisoned and confused. And then for 2 grass and a colorless, Blasting Wind does 130 damage. Butterfree VMAX has 1 attack for 2 grass and a colorless, Max Poison Wind deals 150 damage. Your opponent's active Pokemon is now poisoned and confused. So we can see there is the common idea between these two Pokemon that we are going to be poisoning and also confusing the defending Pokemon. Butterfree VMAX conveniently deals 150 damage with poison. That is a 2-hit KO on most Pokemon VMAX. 160 times 2, 320. So the math checks out on Butterfree VMAX. That being said, I'm not exactly sure that status conditions are going to be as potent as they could be in our upcoming format, considering the Jirachi engine is still very popular and many decks are running for Switch as well as Scoop Up Net. So lots of pivoting options considering that Jirachi is still popular. I think Jirachi is going to remain popular even with the rotation of escape boards. So even though Confusion is a very disruptive status condition, making it so that there's only a 50% chance that your opponent's next attack is successful, they can easily switch to get out of it. And all in all, I think that Butterfree V and Butterfree VMAX will be outclassed by more powerful grass Pokemon. Continuing on with the grass Pokemon, Serena is pretty cool. It's got an attack for 1 colorless energy. Power Whip. Choose one of your opponent's Pokemon. This attack does 20 damage to that Pokemon for each energy attached to this Pokemon. So if you have a Rillaboom in play and have loaded up a Serena with a bunch of grass energy, you could theoretically be sniping 100, 200 damage if you had loaded this thing up with a lot of grass energy. That being said, Serena is a Stage 2. Stage 2 grass Pokemon can be set up with Rowlet and Alolan Exeggutor, but is it worth it to set up Serena just to have a cool snipe attack? Probably not. Serena's second attack here, Setback Kick, 100 damage, and you may choose an energy attached to your opponent's active Pokemon and return it to their hand. All around a solid Stage 2 Pokemon, but as I've said, Stage 2 Pokemon are kind of in a tough spot right now as far as playability, considering they only have 150 HP, and most Pokemon that we're going to be talking about in this format are rocking about 300. Now moving on to the good stuff. We've got Centiskorch V and Centiskorch VMAX, both amazing Pokemon, sure to be making waves in our upcoming standard format. They are an absolute force to be reckoned with. Centiskorch V's got 210 HP, great HP total, as well as Centiskorch VMAX with 320. They both have a hefty retreat cost of 3, but it's worth playing around when you take into consideration how powerful these Pokemon are. Centiskorch V has 2 attacks. First attack, Burning Emissions for 1 fire energy, allows you to discard 1 energy from this Pokemon. If you do, you get to choose 1 energy attached to your opponent's active Pokemon and discard it. And then its second attack, for 4 fire energy, Burning Train, deals 180 damage. I really love that first attack. Being able to set your opponent back an energy attachment is very valuable. There are lots of decks playing Crushing Hammers just to try and get that energy advantage in standard format right now. And I think that Fire has plenty of ways to accelerate fire energy onto their Pokemon, so having to sack an energy yourself in order to disrupt your opponent is not really that big of a problem. I really like that first attack there. Is great against Arceus, Dialga, and Palkia, Dragapult VMAX, Pikarom, any deck that attaches energy from hand. That is going to be a great attack, setting them back in their momentum. And then Burning Train does some vanilla damage output, but it's not the attack we're really going to be looking at with the Centiskorch VMAX line. G-Max Centiferno deals 40 damage plus 40 more damage for each fire energy attached to this Pokemon, and you can attach a fire energy from your discard pile to this Pokemon after calculating damage for this attack, and it costs just 2 colorless energy. That's an incredible attack. It has a massive damage ceiling capable of easily dealing up to 320 damage, which one-hit KOs the most popular Pokemon VMAX. With 4 fire energy attached to your Centiskorch V, you're dealing 200 damage. With 6 energy attached, you're dealing 280 damage, which one-hit KOs every single Tag Team Pokemon GX, and then with 7 energy attached, you're going to be one-hit KOing almost all Pokemon VMAX. And the attack snowballs. Every time you attack, you get to attach an additional fire energy from your discard pile to the Centiskorch VMAX, which makes it relatively easy to hit those big fire energy totals. 6, 7, not totally out of the question, especially when you consider the fact that we've got Welder in the format. Welder can attach 2 fire energies from your hand to your Pokemon. You can also attach an energy from hand for turn. You can also use Victini V to accelerate energy from the discard pile onto your Centiskorch VMAX. You can also use Volcanion from Unbroken Bonds in order to accelerate energy onto your Centiskorch on the first turn of the game going second. There are plenty of options to load this thing up with fire energy, and I think that Centiskorch VMAX is going to be an absolute force to be reckoned with in our upcoming format, especially when you consider the fact that there is a new Heat Fire Energy Special Energy card. This card provides 1 fire energy while it's attached to a Pokemon. If it's attached to a fire Pokemon, its maximum HP is increased by 20 and it stacks. So all of a sudden, your Centiskorch VMAX, which can deal a nearly infinite amount of damage, can now have a massive amount of HP as well. With all 4 of those Heat Fire energies attached to your Centiskorch VMAX, it's going to be rocking a substantial 400 HP, which is just craziness. And then there's also that tool card that increases your Pokemon's HP by 50, which is absolute madness. So I think that the Centiskorch VMAX is going to be very powerful, and I'm really looking forward to the decks that revolve around Centiskorch VMAX in our upcoming format. Next, we're going to be taking a look at Milotic. Milotic cards have traditionally been pretty powerful in the Pokemon trading card game. It's got 120 HP and a neat ability, Bright Heal, which reads, once during your turn, you may heal 20 damage from each of your Pokemon. If you have multiple Milotic in play, you can do it multiple times during your turn, meaning that you could heal up to 80 damage from all of your Pokemon if you have 4 Milotic in play. If math ever becomes really important and healing becomes a thing, then this Milotic could be a card to consider in your decks. It's stage 1, easy enough to set up. I think that for the most part, we are going to be moving into a 2-hit KO format with some decks capable of taking huge 1-hit knockouts, like the Centiskorch VMAX we just took a look at. So how effective this Milotic's ability is, it will remain to be seen, but it's at least worth talking about because healing 20 damage from all of your Pokemon is a pretty good effect. Vikavolt always seems to be good. Vikavolt V here has got an attack paralyzing bolts, but it doesn't paralyze at all. Instead, your opponent cannot play any item cards from their hand during their next turn, and it deals 50 damage. Now, Vikavolt has got a lot of retreat. It's got a 3 retreat cost, which is pretty heavy, and Zeraora GX is going to be rotating out of standard format, meaning that it's not going to be super easy to get this thing in and out of the active position. Also, we're going to be losing Thunder Mountain Prism Star, but with that being said, we get to keep Tapu Koko Prism Star, meaning that you can still get a turn 1 paralyzing bolt if you are going second. So item lock going second, very good, considering that your opponent cannot play a supporter on the first turn of the game going first. And I think that a paralyzing bolt can set you up for more powerful lightning attacks coming down the line, like Vikavolt V's second attack, Super Zap Cannon, does 190 damage, but you have to discard 2 energy from this Pokemon, so it can be very good for finishing off Pokemon that you have softened up with the paralyzing bolt. I think that Vikavolt V will be a powerful option for lightning decks that have lost their electro powers. That is a huge blow for lightning decks to take. That being said, they get a new tool in Vikavolt V, and item lock is very strong. So I think a quick Vikavolt V can certainly shut down a lot of decks. It also gives lightning decks an out to decks that play a lot of Lily's Pokédolls. So I really like that option here for Lightning decks, and I think that Vikavolt V is going to be a powerful asset for Lightning decks going forward. This Toxtricity looks awesome and is pretty cool, so we'll talk about it. It's got a crazy attack, Risk Taker for 2 colorless energy, flip a coin, if heads, discard 5 cards from the top of your opponent's deck. But if tails, you have to discard 5 cards from the top of your deck. Now, with the supporter will, you can guarantee that you're going to be milling 5 cards from the top of your opponent's deck. Now, is that necessarily worth playing when you could be just using Belelba and Bryson Man, which discards 3 from the top of your opponent's deck? Probably not, but it's worth talking about and considering. You can use it with just 1 twin energy, which is certainly pretty cool. And it's got a second attack, Thunder Jolt for 2 lightning and a colorless, does 160 damage and 30 to itself. On a stage 1 Pokemon, I think that's the Risk Taker attack at least worth having in the back of the brain there in case something like that ever becomes necessary or relevant. But in a format with Belelba and Bryson Man, we're probably just going to be leaning on those supporter cards for our mill decks going forward. Up next, we've got Gardevoir V and Gardevoir VMAX. And I absolutely love these cards. The artwork on them is beautiful. Love seeing Gardevoir as Psychic type again. Still with the metal weakness, though, referencing its fairy typing in the video game. But there are going to be no more fairy cards in the Pokemon trading card games. We have that Psychic typing here represented with Gardevoir. Now, this Gardevoir line has pretty interesting mechanic with it, revolving around healing, and they've got a nice amount of HP with 320 HP on the Gardevoir VMAX, as well as 210 on the Gardevoir V, and a retreat cost of 2 is definitely reasonable. Gardevoir V's attacks for 1 Psychic Energy, Magical Shot does 30 damage, and for 2 Psychic and a colorless, Overflowing Wave does 120 damage plus 80 more damage if you healed any damage from this Pokemon during this turn. So with that, there is a new item in this set which heals from Psychic type Pokemon, so we might as well talk about that. Dubious Canned Goods. You get to heal 80 damage from one of your Pokemon with a Psychic Energy attached to it. Then you have to discard a Psychic Energy from that Pokemon. So it's like a super potion that's super boosted up and for Psychic Pokemon only. I don't think that the Dubious Canned Goods are all that great, but it is pretty clearly intended to be played with the Gardevoir line. So you could potentially do 200 damage if you healed any damage from this Pokemon. You could just use a regular potion as well to do that. We also saw the Milotic. The Milotic heals 20 damage from all of your Pokemon. There's also Indeedee V, which can heal damage from your active Pokemon. I think I would rather use Indeedee V to heal the damage from the Gardevoir in order to unlock that boost in damage from your attack there. Gardevoir VMAX does 180 damage, and you get to heal 50 damage from this Pokemon. So I do like that. It's acting as a big tank, right? You're 2-hit KOing all Pokemon VMAX, dealing 180 damage. That's super nice, but what's that? We have a weakness to metal, which is horrible because Zacian V is one of the best cards in format. So the whole idea of Gardevoir being this tanky Pokemon that cannot be one-hit KO'd and gets to heal itself every turn is kind of shut down by the fact that it's got a glaring metal weakness, which feels really bad. Of course, you can play Weakness Guard Energy potentially to turn off that metal weakness, but it just feels kind of bad to be weak to one of the strongest cards in standard format right now. That being said, it is possible that if the meta shifts away from Zacian, that this could become a big tank Pokemon that glances off hits, heals with maybe the Dubious Canned Goods, heals with Indeedees, things like that. I could certainly imagine a world where there's multiple Indeedee set up. You've got your Gardevoir VMAX, and with 2 Indeedee and your natural healing from the attack, you're going to be healing 90 damage a turn, which is pretty powerful. And I think that that could be a thing. And then you got Mallow and Lana, right? Maybe that becomes possible later down the line if Zacian V ever takes a dip in power. Grapploct V is a fighting type octopus, which is cool, but fighting type Pokemon are not that great right now, and they don't have the most amount of support in the trading card game at this time. Grapploct V, unfortunately, not going to be changing that either, but with Eternatus VMAX coming out in our upcoming Darkness Ablaze set, you have to hold on to hope that maybe there's going to be some fighting type Pokemon that rise to the occasion to help take down that powerful archetype. Grapploct V has 2 attacks. For 1 fighting energy, Bind Up does 20 damage. If the defending Pokemon is a basic Pokemon, it can't attack during your opponent's next turn. And then for 2 fighting and a colorless, Moonsault Press deals 120 damage. You get to flip a coin. If heads, this attack does 100 more damage. Now, the defending Pokemon, a basic Pokemon, can't attack. That would be pretty cool if all decks were not playing a ton of switches. So with decks playing a high count of switch, they can easily switch out of that. Also, Pokemon VMAX are on the rise at this time, so it only works on basic Pokemon, making it even less potent. So unfortunately for Grapploct, I think there are just better fighting Pokemon to choose that are worth 2 prizes. You always have to stop and look at Darkrai. Darkrai is always getting amazing Pokemon cards. Let's take a look at this one. Its ability, Dark Guard. If this Pokemon has any dark energy attached to it, takes 20 less damage from attacks. And for 3 colorless energy, Dark Spiral does 60 damage plus an additional 20 damage for each darkness energy attached to this Pokemon. So if you have 5 darkness energy attached to this Pokemon, you're going to deal 160 damage. It hardly seems worth it. If you have 10 darkness energy attached to this Pokemon, you're going to be dealing 260 damage. I think that this Darkrai is just not quite as good. Even if you're playing a Dark Box deck with Weavile GX, you'd be better off moving all of your darkness energy onto a Greninja and Zoroark Tag Team GX and taking a big knockout with that Pokemon rather than trying to take big knockouts with your Darkrai here. So unfortunately, this Darkrai is not all that great. Talk about a troll Pokemon card. This card is about as annoying as it gets. It's got an ability, Metal Skin. This Pokemon's max HP is increased by 20 for each metal energy attached to it, and its attack, Trap Bite, for 2 colorless energy does 60 damage. If this Pokemon is damaged by an attack during your opponent's next turn, you get to place 12 damage counters on the attacking Pokemon, which is pretty hilarious. It reminds me of Shell Trap on Turtonator GX, but multiplied by a lot. Now, I think that the Galarian Stunfisk is kind of hilarious. If you've got 5 metal energy attached to your Galarian Stunfisk V, it's got 300 HP. You can wear that new tool card from the Infinity Zone half of Darkness Ablaze, which gives it plus 50 HP as well. And with 5 energy on your Galarian Stunfisk, you can give it more HP with the Cape and then Trap Bite every single turn. You gotta imagine those 12 damage counters are gonna stack up, since very few Pokemon are going to be one-hit KOing your Galarian Stunfisk V, except for every fire Pokemon, and Centiskorch is released in this set. So that's unfortunate. But the idea of trolling your opponent with no way to one-hit KO Stunfisk V and making them take those 12 damage counters every turn is pretty hilarious, and I look forward to somebody trying to make this card work. This Corviknight is kind of insane. It's got a great ability, Flying Taxi. Once during your turn, when you play this card from your hand to evolve a Pokemon, you may choose one of your Pokemon excluding Corviknight and return that Pokemon, all cards attached to it, into your hand. This is the closest thing to Acerola that we have in standard format for Pokemon V, Pokemon VMAX, Pokemon Tag Team GX. Imagine being able to just pick up your Pokemon VMAX with a heavy amount of damage on it and take all the energy, everything from the board up into your hand. That is incredible. Acerola was an incredible card. This ability mimics the effect of Acerola in a way, even though the Pokemon doesn't have to have any damage on it, but certainly you probably are going to want to pick up a Pokemon that has damage on it. I think that that ability is very good. It's on a stage 2 Pokemon, unfortunately, and it's not like Rookidee and Corvisquire are exceptionally great here, but this is a very powerful ability, and I think that there could be some sort of strategy that revolved around picking up your damaged Pokemon VMAX turn after turn with Corviknights. You could use Devolution Sprays in order to reuse your Corviknights and something like that. I think that the potential is there, and the ability is certainly very strong. It does take a lot of setup, though. Now, we've almost made it through all of the noteworthy Pokemon except for 4, and they are the new Night March equivalent Pokemon from our upcoming set, Darkness Ablaze. Bunnelby is the all-star here with the Mad Party attack. Mad Party does 20 damage for each Pokemon in your discard pile with the Mad Party attack, which is why I'm calling it the new Night March. And look at the artwork on this thing. It's adorable, absolutely chaotic and hilarious looking, and I love it, and I can't wait to try and build a deck around this. Now, will the new Mad Party mechanic be as gimmicky as Lost March? Unfortunately, Lost March never worked out, and if you're watching this and you're upset that I just said that, I'm sorry, but Lost March never really lived up to the promise of the March attacks. Now, with Night March being an attack and a deck that lasted for years, Mad Party has a lot to live up to. Will Mad Party completely outclass Night March in expanded format? These are things that we have to think about. With 4 Pokemon in the set that have the Mad Party attack, it means that in expanded format, you could potentially have 16 Pokemon in the discard pile with the Mad Party attack, and you could copy the attack of your Bunnelby. Since it's a basic Pokemon, you could copy that attack with Marshadow GX, and you could potentially use Mad Party for a whopping 320 damage. Now, that does require that you not have any of your Mad Partiers prized, which is not going to be the easiest thing considering you have 16 of them, but the damage ceiling is pretty high. 320 damage with a Marshadow GX in expanded format, definitely nothing to scoff at. In standard format, you have to have at least 1 Pokemon out with the Mad Party attack in order to perform your attack. Now, Bunnelby is probably going to be the Pokemon of choice in standard, considering it can attack with just a twin energy, which is really nice. So 1 energy attack, and it can deal up to 300 damage, which is very good. If you have 15 of your other Mad Partiers in the discard pile, Bunnelby can get in there for a 300 damage attack, which is certainly very powerful. Now, in expanded format, you've got Battle Compressor, plenty of ways to get your Mad Partiers into the discard pile. In standard format, not so much. Now, there is Poltegeist, which has an ability T-Break. Once during your turn, you may discard a Pokemon with a Mad Party attack from your hand and draw 2 cards. So it is a very nice way to get Mad Partiers into the discard pile, but you also have to set up a Poltegeist, which has the Mad Party attack in order to do it. So you're decreasing your damage potential by setting up Poltegeist, but Poltegeist does help you to get more of the party crew into the discard pile. So that is kind of a give and take that we have here with the Poltegeist. It also can use Mad Party for 2 colorless energy. Mad Party does 20 damage times the amount of Pokemon in the discard pile with a Mad Party attack. So it can be used for just that twin energy. We do like to see that. So if you do set up the Poltegeist, at least you can reasonably attack with it, and maybe you could just set it up on your board for a while, turn some Mad Partiers into the discard pile, then eventually finish up the game by attacking with it. So setting up Poltegeist, not necessarily the worst thing in the world, considering it can help you turn Mad Partiers into the discard pile and also attack. Now, unlike Poltegeist and Bunnelby, our other 2 Mad Partiers are not going to be attacking very easily. Dedenne is very cute. I love the artwork on it, kind of mimicking that Bunnelby artwork, but its Mad Party attack costs a Psychic and 2 colorless, which is just not that great. And then there's Galarian Mr. Rime. Of course, Galarian Mr. Rime is a Mad Partier. Would you just look at him? He's got an ability. Once during your turn, you may choose one of your opponent's face-down prize cards and switch it with the top card of their deck. I don't think it's necessarily that great of an ability, not necessarily worth setting up Galarian Mr. Rime just for that. And then its Mad Party attack costs a water and 2 colorless, so it's not like you're going to want to attack with this thing. Now, it would be hilarious to try and mess with your opponent who maybe is putting the Jirachi Prism Star into their prizes to try and take a bonus prize, and then you go and you switch it back out of the prizes, but that's certainly not worth it. And I think that for the most part, Galarian Mr. Rime's job, as well as Dedenne's job, is just going to be to make their way into the discard pile and boost your Mad Party damage output. Moving on to the items, we've got Lookalike Bell here as an item card. You get to search your deck for a Pokemon with the same name as a Pokemon in your discard pile, reveal it, and put it into your hand. It's free search, but you have to have a Pokemon in your discard pile with the same name already. So free search, very good. Getting Pokemon into the discard pile in this format, not necessarily the easiest thing to do, considering that you're going to want to attack with Pokemon that you're getting with your search cards. You're not just going to want to send a Pokemon to the discard pile just to use Lookalike Bell for free. So your window of being able to use Lookalike Bell is relatively narrow, considering you're going to have to search for a Pokemon, let it get knocked out, then use Lookalike Bell in order to go get another copy of that Pokemon. And I think that all in all, Lookalike Bell is just not as powerful as cards like Pokemon Communication or Quick Ball and so on and so forth. Old Computer is certainly an enticing card with an amazing artwork. It's an item, you get to flip 2 coins. I'm intrigued. If both are heads, choose 1 card from your discard pile, reveal it, and put it into your hand. An extremely powerful effect, but you have only a 25% chance of getting it, which is very bad. And I don't think that it's worth putting an item card into your deck if you only have a 25% chance of success. Now, if this card only flipped 1 coin, then we'd be talking, and you'd probably be seeing this card in a ton of decks. But with 2 coin flips required, even with Will as a potential supporter card to help you flip a heads on one of them, I do not think that it is worth it. Big Parasol is an incredible Pokemon tool card. You can attach it to any of your Pokemon that doesn't already have a tool attached to it. And as long as the Pokemon this card is attached to is your active Pokemon, you get to prevent all effects of your opponent's attacks except damage done to all of your Pokemon. Existing effects are not removed. So if you have the Big Umbrella attached to your active Pokemon, it means that Gardevoir VMAX's damage counters cannot hit your bench, because those are an effect of an attack. They're not damage dealt, or else Mew from Unbroken Bonds would stop that damage. But since those damage counters placed are an effect, the Big Umbrella stops it. Now, I think that more so that the Big Umbrella, Eternatus VMAX is going to be putting a stop to Gardevoir VMAX in our upcoming format, but it's a pretty unique effect and definitely cool to have this as a card in standard format. Now, Kabu is a supporter. You get to shuffle your hand into your deck and draw 4 cards. If you only have 1 Pokemon in play, you get to draw 8 cards instead. So that could be enticing to players. If you say, you know what, on the first turn of the game, going second, I probably only have a Jirachi in play, so I could Kabu for 8 cards. Now, I want us to take that thought and let's unpack that for a second. Okay, so if we go first, it's not a supporter we can use on the first turn of the game. Going second, that means that we have to, first of all, only open 1 Pokemon that we want to put down. And if you open more than 1 Pokemon that you want to put down, then you cannot bench them before playing the Kabu. So it's just not worth it, because a lot of times in your opening hand, you're going to have cards like Quick Ball, Pokemon Communication, Capture Energy, whatever. You're going to have cards that search out basic Pokemon that you're going to want to play before the draw supporter, and the fact that you cannot play any of those before effectively using a Kabu seems very bad. Now, there could theoretically be some deck that is just a crazy tank deck that really thrives on only having 1 Pokemon in play, and if such a deck were to ever reveal itself or kind of become uncovered, then maybe Kabu could be effective in a deck like that. But I think for almost every deck in standard format right now, Kabu is just going to be outclassed by better draw cards. Pokemon Breeders Nurturing is another supporter here. You get to choose up to 2 of your Pokemon in play, search your deck for a card that evolves from each of those Pokemon, and put it on top of the Pokemon to evolve it. Then shuffle your deck, and you can't use this card during a first turn or on a Pokemon that just came into play. So you'd have to be able to evolve that Pokemon anyway. I like this card. I think that searching for evolutions is very good. Red and blue has seen some play, and it also accelerates energy. This just gives you 2 evolutions. Now, I think that evolutions need more help than this in order to become playable. You could use it for your Pokemon VMAX. Sure. I mean, there is already Evolution Incense, which I think is probably just better than this card. But I think that Evolution Pokemon, Stage 2 Pokemon need a lot of help in this format. I don't think that Pokemon Breeders Nurturing is going to be enough to get those Stage 2 Pokemon into a playable position with 320 plus HP Pokemon kind of romping around that are very easy to get in play. Finding your rare candy, getting your stage 2 Pokemon into play, especially when there's Dragapult sniping 5 damage counters to all of your bench Pokemon, makes it very difficult for stage 2s, and Pokemon Breeders Nurturing is not necessarily going to help those, but it's an interesting card. Glimwood Tangle is a stadium card that reads, once during either player's turn, after they flip any coins for an attack, the player may ignore all results of those coin flips and begin flipping those coins again. So could be used for a Pokemon that paralyzes. That's kind of the immediate thing that comes to mind. If you have a Pokemon that inflicts paralysis on a coin flip, you could play the Glimwood Tangle and reflip that paralyzing coin flip. This card has potential. If there's ever an attacker that really relies on a coin flip, certainly you would want to play this card to boost your odds of flipping heads. It's like Will in the form of a stadium card, and I like it. I think that it's good, and I think it will definitely see play in some kind of deck that revolves around coin flips. And then, of course, we have already talked about that Heat Fire energy, which is just completely gnarly and is going to be amazing with Centiskorch VMAX. And that is it from Japan's Eruption Walker set. And that is the second half of our Darkness Ablaze review. Thank you all so much for watching the video. Hopefully you're as excited as I am about these new Pokemon cards that are going to be released for us in August. So I'm really stoked about that. Thank you all so much for watching the video. Make sure to like the video, sub to the channel, ring that bell. Check me out on Twitch. We stream live Pokemon trading card game content every single weekday on Twitch, twitch.tv/TrickyJim. Make sure to drop by the channel and give it a follow. Also, if you're looking for Pokemon trading card game singles, make sure to check out FullGripGames.com. Supporting the shop at Full Grip Games directly supports the content that I create here on Tricky Jim. If you're looking for PTCGO codes, make sure to check out FullGripCodes.com for instant PTCGO code delivery. Y'all take it easy and have a great day. Let me know in the comments below, what do you think about this awesome new upcoming set? Peace.